Sorry, we're slightly late. My apologies.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on this special occasion. My name is Abhijit Ashokan, and I am one of the officers for Hindu YUVA. The philosophy of this organization is to preserve, practice, promote, and protect Hindu YUVA and Hindu Dharma on campus, and to provide a safe space for everyone to practice freely. This event, here hosted, is by Hindu YUVA in collaboration with iHeart and Anjani Entertainment to make this event available for all of you guys. I would like to introduce today's special guest. First, we have Dr. Nambi Narayan. He studied at Princeton University with a fellowship at NASA and was instrumental in developing the Vikas engine that will be later used in the Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle, which was instrumental in the launches of India. Our second guest is Mr. Madhavan, a director, actor, and producer with many hits in both North and South India. I'd like to thank our advisor, Dr. Sharath Menon, for his guidance today. Now, I'd like to ask Mr. Madhavan, sir, for his upcoming debut movie.
Great.
We are recording those people who weren't able to make it, so please don't cross the camera. The second request is please don't come up too close and try to maintain distance for COVID. I know the pandemic is over, but COVID is still around, so just maintain some distance with regard to everybody's health. And then the last thing is, have fun, send questions. If you already sent questions in the form, we already have them, but if you want to ask more questions, just write them on the note card and give anyone with a Hindu YUVA t-shirt on the parameters, and they will pass them out. Right?
Great, thank you.
Sorry. First, we will play the trailer, so everyone please look that way.
That's all right.
All this grand preparation is worth the outcome.
If you think this is such a futile exercise, why are you even here?
I'm here because what happened to me should never happen to anybody else in this country. Sir, it's such an honor to meet you.
Oh, it's an honor to meet you too, Nambi.
You know what this guy first said when he landed on the moon?
One small step for man, one giant leap.
No.
What he actually said was, "Holy shit, how the hell do I get back?"
We need to use these rockets to launch satellites commercially.
What they're asking for is impossible.
In the years to come, every nation will be vying for this trillion-dollar market.
This is NASA, Mr. Nambi. The most got a plane ride for any scientist worth his soul. I trust to understand, but none of this is.
They're trying to poach my best man again. Start training the replacements from tomorrow.
Sir, I can't do that. I don't have the time. If you don't like the way I'm working, then I'm happy to resign right away.
Only a NASA fellowship in 3 months is pretty big by itself. You must be the real deal now.
Sir, everybody thinks the engine failed because of me, but the truth of the matter is I failed because of you. Give us the hydraulic plant and all the equipment.
What you're asking for is £400 million worth of equipment.
I know as a nation we can't afford to pay you a dime, but we'll forever be indebted to you. Can you promise that the engines will be delivered on time?
I cannot promise that we will even be alive towards later. Could humanity have been better served if you worked at NASA? There should be a photograph of you in the Oxford Dictionary, right next to the definition of the word patriotism.
You cannot betray this country. There's Tell me what needs to be done to get you out of here, to right this wrong. In this country, we have given up on the likes of me, but I cannot and will not give up on them. I'm not here to get a character certification from you guys, nor am I here to win a popularity contest. We're here on a mission.
Stop, Captain! Stop! There's no time!
It's time for you to take us to the stars. What do you take me for? I'm but a rocket scientist. How many people like me? How many, Mr. Han? Fools who've been victims of their own patriotism. I will fight.
So, one more housekeeping tip. So, we'll have some content and images shown on the screen from now and forward. But because these images are confidential and exclusive to this event, we ask you not to have any of your cameras or any audio recordings shown. Once again, this is just something for us. Please do not record anything that is shown from this point forward. Thank you. Oh yeah, now we'll have Dr. Madhavan. Mr. Madhavan for his speech about this movie. I don't know if the mic is playing or not.
Thank you.
Guys, right?
Thank you so much. Rocket science. Apparently not, no? Anyways, you might have to get a mic for Mr. Narayan. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you so very much, sir. The YUVA as well as Anjali Entertainment for making this possible for us. When we started off making this movie almost 4.5 years ago, the last thing we expected was to be in Houston talking about it, or having one of the cities here name the 3rd of June as Nambi Narayanan Day, or as a matter of fact, all the privileges that we've been bestowed upon till now, including
Excellent, thank you. Including at Cannes, where we showed the film for the very first time, and the response was, to say the least, flattering. But I'm going to jump and dive right into it because we have limited time, so I'm going to tell you how this film came about. I was bored with the kind of films that I was doing back home in India, and I've always wanted to do film based on engineering because that's been my passion. And somebody came and told me, hey, you know what? There's a aerospace engineer from ISRO who was supposed to be having an affair with a Maldivian woman, and he got caught and they jailed him, and then they realized it was a false case, and now he's free because he fought his own case and he's been vindicated. I said, great, it sounds like a nice James Bond film for me to do, rocket scientist, beautiful Maldivian women, scandal, and then of course being a good man at the end. And with that shallow, and I'm ashamed to say, very shallow intent is what I left with Bombay with to meet Mr. Nambi Narayanan. And when I met him, and the moment I met him, I did not know how much my entire life is going to change, or has changed since then. I've been a very privileged man. I've been lucky as an actor. I got a break which was unprecedented. My life has changed for the better many times over in many, many incidences. But the way it has changed in the last 5 years is something that I could not have fathomed. And I'm very grateful to God for that huge transformation that has happened on my understanding of just life, people, and sacrifices, and most importantly, what true patriotism is all about. Because right in front of me is, I think, the epitome of patriotism. I haven't met any man more compelling, more committed to his nation than Mr. Narayanan. And sometimes it's embarrassing to talk about him like this in front of him, but I will tell you, when I met him, there were two types of things happening. One is that I knew that I was missing a story there, because all I was told about was this case, a false case, and then how he was vindicated. And so I was trying to look at this man thinking, that cannot be the entire story. On the other hand, Mr. Narayanan was judging me. What is this Bollywood actor going to do with my story? I'm a rocket scientist. I don't know if he understands physics. So I could analyze that he was scanning me to figure out if he could trust me with his story. But the strangest part was, both of us were looking at one aspect of Dr. Nambi Narayan's life. And I want to show you a video right now, which is the reason this film came about, and that'll be self-explanatory. And then after that, I'll proceed to tell you the two very important reasons why I decided to make this film. So can we have the first video, please? And I urge you to turn your cameras off. And that's how the story unfolded. When I met him, I realized there was a lot more to the story. And then after hearing the story, I was so angry that nobody knew about Dr. Nambi Narayanan. I thought it was a national disservice not to know about people like him. The two reasons why I wanted to make a film like this is because one is, when I met him, he was just talking to me about the case. The reason it took 7 months to write the script is he did not think that what he had done for the sake of the country, for what the amount of spectacular achievements he had managed to achieve as a salaried employee of ISRO, was actually being considered as a service to the nation. And he thought he was so nonchalant about it. I was paying for it and I did my job. But the job he did was build what is called the first liquid fuel engine that India ever had, the Vikas engine. The turmoil that you went through to build this engine, the beauty of this engine is it's the only engine in the world that has never failed. The missions might have failed, the satellites might have failed, but the launch has never failed in 157 missions thus far, which by itself is spectacular. And that was just his technical achievement. His achievement as a striker of deals, for instance, getting the more extraordinary deal that he struck with Russia for the KVD-1 engines, the cryogenic engines that was needed by India to compete in the satellite launch market in 1994. The kind of getting $150 million worth of equipment free from Scotland, from Rolls-Royce, the kind of things that was so nonchalantly he was spewing these information, and I felt, my God, how do we not know about this man? And that is the one reason I thought I should make this film. And the good news is, like always, if I come up with a subject, there's no producer who's willing to back me, because they keep thinking I make crappy films. It's only after they are released and they're successful that people decide that, oh, let's make another Tanu Veds Manu, which I don't want to do. I'm like, I'm done with it. So, but every time I try and break the barrier, there's nobody who trusts us. So I had to actually go ahead and put my money where my mouth is with two people, Varghese Mullen as well as the 27th Entertainment. And we funded and we were proud to put in our money to make this film. That is the first reason. The second reason is, we as a society have a very strange attribute. Not a good one, but nevertheless, every society in the world has this. In every school, every college you go, there are these few students. They're the good boys. They do their job. They do their work on time. He or she, they make sure they don't get into trouble. They're sometimes, unfortunately, the teacher's pet. And these are the kind of people that we don't like, because you want to give them a whack on that and say, can you be normal for a change? That small quirk of ours actually extends into the society completely. If there's somebody in the society who's straightforward, who's honest, who pays his tax, who does what he's supposed to do for the sake of the society, the country, or the nation, then if there is a crack or chink in that armor, you want to put your finger in there and tear it apart and then make up the person human. Only then do you feel you're equally you're validated or worthwhile in the presence of such company. And that is so sad, because these are the people, the pillars that make the country like India stand. Today, engineers from India, scientists, IT professionals are lauded the world over. They're running some of the biggest businesses, the Fortune 500 companies, the top 20, a large amount of those CEOs are Indians. It cannot be just mere coincidence. There has to be a fact, that is responsible for something like that. Our upbringing, our decency, and it's quite fascinating that these CEOs manage to stay above board, don't get into much trouble or scandals. So what is it that makes them so efficient? And to glorify the engineers, the technicians from our country, so that we tell the world that apart from making movies on freedom struggle and the Mughal struggle and other stories about running around trees, we also make fantastic engineers, technicians, and scientists from our country, and that is the second most important reason that I ended up making the film. I know that we have limited time, so I'm going to shut myself up because I know you all want to hear Dr. Nambi Narayanan speak. And so we will open the question and answer session after Nambi Narayanan sir has said a few words, and I'm going to ask you, not to flatter me, but your first opinion about what you thought when the film was being shot.
Good evening to all. Actually, his question is, when the film was being shot, what was my opinion actually? I will tell what is my opinion after having seen the fully completed film. That is more important than what you really. That film is at least from my point of view, it is on expected lines. It talks about the truth and only truth. There are emotions, but again, unfortunately, they are truths. You can't escape from such emotions. And there are certain revelations which you may find very bad or very sad, or at times you may be ashamed of the whole episode. But eventually, when you realize that these are the truths with which we are living today. So my aim was to tell the world what is the story behind this episode, namely the so-called ISRO spy case, and how people manipulated in spreading wrong information. That is on one side. Other side is how I struggled to find out, not only I know the truth, but I have to tell to others, I have to tell them, I have to convince them, I have to prove it to them. Otherwise nobody will believe what I am saying. So I had worked for that, not 1 or 2 years. Actually, the first half of my life, about 25 to 27 years, I worked for the Vikas engine development and other achievements which the film will speak. The remaining 27 years, I worked to bring out the truth and then learned law to the extent which I need. I am an engineer, instability person, but I have to force myself to learn law to find out, because the court doesn't understand anything other than the proof. You have to prove it. So which I proved successfully, with 2 times Supreme Court reiterating the statement, and I am the first fellow probably in free India to have brought a judgment by which the Constitution is paying the compensation to me, and which is a provision available at that time. People might not have known that this will be the result of after so many years. Now the case is being quoted left and right. What you have done to Nambi Narayanan, now you give it to me. You give it to that fellow, this fellow, that kind of references are coming. Now the successful completion of the film, I am of the opinion that it will not only tell what had happened, but also will warn those who are trying to do similar things in the future community. So to that extent, the film is very good, very successful, and I believe that I am satisfied the outcome of this film.
Great, so
We'll I don't know what direction you want to take this conversation, so I'm going to let open the floor up for questions, and we'll try and answer them.
Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Neeraj Suresh. I'm a freshman officer, so I'll be taking over the Q&A session of this event. Like we said, we had index cards and whatnot, and if you have any additional questions, we'll gladly accept your questions, so we'll begin. So this question is for Nambi Narayan. So So the first question is, what challenges did Indian scientists, specifically you as well as others you work with, face while developing the technology that you're developing, either based on either knowledge or the challenges with an international community, or even internal challenges within ISRO?
Like any challenge which you is it working?
Most of the time.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
See, when you work on any project, including when I see all of you, my college days are coming to me. I became a graduate in mechanical engineering way back in 1965.
No, it's not working.
Will it be working if I speak without
There.
that is,
Hold it like that, yeah.
Yeah, without shaking it. You hold it without shaking it. No, but it's gone.
hello? Hello? No, it's unstable.
Not like your engine.
Okay, that's all right. I don't think that we should suffer with that. I hope you are able to hear me, right?
Yeah.
Can you hear me well?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yes.
we can hear you.
Where was I?
The challenges faced by scientists. yeah.
Challenges faced by anybody, including you guys when you are doing your project work. That's a kind of challenges. But in ISRO, luckily, we were actually guided by the great scientists with whom I happen to associate and work. Starts from Dr. Vikram Sarabhai and then Professor Satish Dhawan. Incidentally, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai comes from MIT and
Possible fix, if you choose track holding it up,
okay.
it should work.
Is it working?
Yeah.
Okay. So Dr. Vikram Sarabhai.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, just hold it. Sit here, brother.
No, I was holding it all right.
No, there's some angular stability problem. Sit down, yeah.
We make ourselves comfortable.
No, this is comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, then Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who comes from MIT, and then Professor Satish Dhawan, he is an aeronautical engineer who comes from Caltech, and then Professor YUVA Rao, who comes from again MIT. And
He's from MIT, right?
MIT, and I am in my own way coming from Princeton University. So this country has some role to play in terms of imparting education to some of us in the development of rocketry. Now the challenge we faced in ISRO originally was we don't know anything about rocketry. We didn't have the original Germans to guide us or to help us, and we were on our own. And but we had a lot of imagination. When we did not have even a 3-inch diameter rocket, the weight of the propellant would be about 5 kg. Incidentally, you must know that that was a day when we had no rockets even with a 5 kg propellant, but today we have 160 tons of propellant. That is in one rocket. And we are next to USA they are slightly more than We have a diameter of close to 3 meters, and theirs is 3.1 meter, something like that. So with that situation, we were trying to imagine things which are happening today, that is 50 years now. For example, just to set an example, we were trying to understand how to recover a payload. We didn't have a rocket, we didn't have a payload, we didn't have a carrier, but we were interested in recovering the payload. So what we did was, what a rocket would do, we took it in an aircraft and then dropped the capsule from there. And then it came down, and of course the explosive bolt worked, and the hatchet opened, then it went, and there was a parachute, there was a cable cutter, the cable cutter was cutting the cables, and then we saw the whole thing comes into Arabian Ocean, leaving a color patch, and then we recovered it. Incidentally, why I explained this so quickly was, almost all the systems in this, including the ejection of the payload and cable cutter and the dyeing, all those things, myself and Kalam did together at that time. That was during 1967. So we had imagination, but we didn't have the budget, and we didn't have the money to do that. Well, nobody believed that we have the capability, and including some of us, but we were enthusiastic. That is the original situation. This continued for some time, till we first flew our SLV-3, and then eventually we flew the PSLVs, then Mangalyans, then Chandrayans. But for short of the cryogenic engine, we had this so-called spy case, and which has stalled our development. So in a nutshell, if I may say, the original dilemma, the original non-confidence was turned into confident. We became confident, and we were doing it very well.
It's difficult
for you to stand.
No, people in the back.
Maybe you can take. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. In the front, it's okay.
Keep it closer to you.
Yeah, give the chair, give the chair. Nambi sir will feel more comfortable. There you go. Okay.
Okay, the next question is more of a broader question, but Dr. Nambi sir, why is space science important for India as a whole?
I'm not saying it is a tricky question or a tough question to answer, but you all know the use of space technology for any country, forget about India. I think you can do remote sensing, you can do reconnaissance, you can use it for security, you can use it for television transmission, predictions of weather, and predictions of cyclones, and in this part of the country you are facing hurricanes and stuff like that. So that kind of predictions you can do accurately with. So it is a lot of applications, and a country like India, if you really recall, when some kind of a cyclone hits, there will be so many people will be dying and will be, sort of, we had this difficulty. After the space related work came into existence, particularly the satellites of our own, I don't think that we ever had any problem of that kind of a death, or we were able to evict the people. The one which I remember was some 5-7 years back in the Orissa coast. We evicted more than 10-12 lakhs people, and not even one was getting into the problem. So that's the use of space related work.
Sorry, I'm going to expand on that. What Dr. Narayan said is the most obvious uses of space and research technology, but you all have to know that any advancement in technology that we have right now, right from the internet to the use of fiber optics to road safety to arthroscopic surgeries to textiles, food, everything is a byproduct of space travel and research. And we have, I think we vastly undervalue what this research brings to our entire society. So it is not just important for India, but for the rest of the world to understand the importance And the one thing that we've been trying to say through the film, and Dr. Nambi Narayanan also believes, is that it's so futile to try and keep reinventing the wheel and competing with each other as nations. First place exploration, that's the final frontier. Once you leave the earth, you're all, irrespective of your caste, creed, nation, religion, everything, you're just earthlings. And we need to explore this space much more now than ever before, including the oceans and the skies above the earth, and make our way to the moon and Mars. It just looks like, it used to be pipe dreams. When we were kids watching movies, now it looks like it's going to be a reality. So I think if all the nations can build on each other's research and intelligence and development, it'll be easier than having to spend the same amount of money to reinvent the wheel to say we all did the same thing over and over again.
Let's try this.
We have two?
Okay.
So we can give one to each.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
I'll manage. It'll work now.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Nambi, sir, another question for you was, what are some ways in which someone settled in the United States can help to contribute to the Indian space program?
I didn't get your question.
How can somebody settled in the United States of America help to contribute to the Indian space program?
Well, for example, in many ways, I told you the people who guided the space research in India all got educated in USA. So we got the education from them. And they were anyway seniors to us, along with the Russians. For that matter, the Germans, originally, after the war, only these Germans got into USA. So if you really look at the Guggenheim laboratories here, so that way that is very can be useful. They also hold technology, which if they are willing, they can share with us. But I am of the opinion, as Madhavan said, we are talking about rocketry, we are talking about satellites, we are talking about various launch vehicles. But then next step we are talking about planets like Mars mission, etc. Subsequent to that we will be talking about interplanetary travels or space stations, etc. And eventually we are likely to move towards exploration of space. Now today you have some people already in the race. If we are all joining together, which I am sure it will happen because you have no other choice. If we are joining together, then the cost will become negligible. At the same time, the benefit will be for the mankind, totally. So US as a nation with a lot of technology in its own, this one can help. And one more thing is, some of you who are sitting here can probably study and then come back to India and make use of your knowledge which you have gained here, so that we can, that is also a help from US only, right? So that way it is good.
So this is a question for both of you all. Whoever wants to start first may. But what are some things that motivate and inspire you?
What are some things that motivate and inspire you?
Yeah, you can answer that question.
Well, I'm looking at mine. So,
you see, you are just, you really want to do certain things which others think that it is not possible to do. That is the nature of human being, correct? Even if it be climbing a tree. Supposing if everybody says you can't, you will not be able to do it, then you want to do it and you want to prove it. So motivation comes from the fact that you are accepting challenges. The challenges are normally in front of you. This is a motivation. But then it added with that, if it is useful, if it is going to be useful not only to you but others, then you really get motivated. Then you are having a project in hand. Try to see whether you can be making it cost effective, whether it can be more refined, etc., etc. So that is what motivates.
The same question to you, Bobby.
Oh, I already answered.
Okay. The next question. This is for Nambi Narayanan. How viable of an option is nuclear power for either spacecrafts and or space habitats?
You know what, I'm going to interrupt. Sorry, brother. We're here to promote the film, not a physics class. So I'm going to veto that question. It's not relevant for this particular engagement. I'm going to see that all your questions are highly technical, but we spent a lot of money to come here to promote that. So I'm going to now encourage people to ask me questions about the film, which I think will benefit both of us, instead of beginning it into a science class. Correct me if I'm wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Okay, great. What questions do you all have? Yes, sir.
I have such a human interest question. How did you find the strength to carry on? So I would like to know.
Say that
How
again?
did you find the strength to carry on?
How do you find the strength to carry on,
Through the case and everything.
despite the setbacks?
Yes. How did you?
No, you see, when your integrity is under question,
Right.
when somebody says that you are a traitor,
Right.
and then when it is not true, naturally, what is the cost is immaterial. Anything is immaterial. That your urge is to prove that he is wrong. Now that is where the strength comes from. Because you know, in India, particularly in India, anything we can accept, but not when your prestige is questioned.
Correct, yeah.
That is the whole.
In fact, Dr. Nambi Narayanan was not privileged to have all those resources in the world to fight a case right up to the Supreme Court, right? But if you see the grit and the strength and the absolute intent and the strength of the intent to actually be able to change the Supreme Court to give a verdict that that is historical, it gives the common man the courage to think that it's possible to do that there is an efficient judiciary, that there is a possibility that people want to do things that are right. He was vindicated, he was given the Padma Bhushan, he was given the fine. It's a fine example of a functional judiciary, which I think is what he proved. He always wanted to prove that. Great. What else? Yes. Sure.
Hello, Madhavan. So the question is for you. This is the first film you're producing, right? So do you think there is a market for science-oriented films in Indian cinema and overseas during the time of RRRs and KGFs? What gave you the confidence to produce this?
Boss, I, my wife, my bank, everybody's praying hard that this be the case. And in all honesty, thank you for asking that question. I started off saying, hey, you know what, what's going to happen? Let me put my money into the film and see what goes. What I didn't expect was the googly that the world had in store for me in terms of the COVID and in terms of the cost of the film. And so sometimes, please sit down so I can answer. So the thing is, I didn't want to direct this film. Direction was thrust upon me. I wanted to, when I met Dr. Nambi Narayanan, I was compelled to tell the story. And then I was compelled to do the research. I was compelled to learn about rocket science, about stability theorem, about the liquid fuel engine, about what he had achieved, and then understand it to such an extent that I'm able to make it into a story and make it palatable to the public who will watch it. Because if it is a biopic on a cricketer or a football player or a singer, then to show that they're proficient in that profession is easy for me. You show them playing cricket well, or you show them singing well. How do you show a rocket scientist, and that too a good rocket scientist, and when it comes to Dr. Narayan, he is a genius. So how do you show the comparison between the success and the achievement of a rocket scientist? That itself was rocket science for me. So I had to learn that, and then I promise you I can build a liquid fuel engine with my bare hands right now. But I just wanted to write it, and then I wanted to make sure that I produced it because nobody else believed in it, like you were saying. They would rather wanted to invest in a KGF or an RRR, and rightfully so, because they got fantastic returns on their investment. But this we had to do on our own. I was interested in acting in it because I understood the subject and I looked a lot like him. And although I got to tell you this, and just to make it more interesting, when I saw Dr. Nambi Narayan's pictures in Princeton, I had a huge problem because it's not easy to look like Dr. Nambi Narayan. In fact, he was so good looking that one of the reasons that things went against him is because how can such a good looking, intelligent genius not have an affair? Now, I'm going to tell you this, and I'm going to blow your mind despite what I'm going to create in terms of expectation. Dr. Nambi Narayan, when he was in Princeton, was an extremely handsome, good-looking man. I'm sure you all seen John F. Kennedy, and I'm going to build your expectation and tell you he was better looking than John F. Kennedy, right? So now you know. So now I'm going to show you a picture, but not till I tell you, Mr. Murli, hold on. You're quicker than Murli, hold on. I have built your expectation. I have created an image in your mind where you're either thinking Maddie is faffing, this can't be true. Despite that, I'm going to tell you, you will hear a sigh when I show you this picture. Now turn the lights off and show Mr. Nambi Narayan in Princeton with his wife. Really? What did I tell you about the sigh? Thank you. So this is the kind of conviction I have about my film, right? So the problem is, I was ready for everything, as an actor, as a writer, as a producer, but I was not ready to direct it. That was too much. But through the fact that one of our the gentleman who was supposed to direct it could not come through at the last minute, direction was thrust upon me because the option was drop the film or take the plunge. And Dr. Nambi Narayan believed that I could direct the film. So I took the plunge. And I was shaking because what you saw was the English trailer. But all my actors, including the gentleman sitting there with long hair, who was acted in the film, all the actors spoke English, then they would cut and the next line would be spoken in Hindi, and then cut and the third line would be spoken in Tamil. So we actually shot this film in 3 different languages. And all of them spoke all the languages. It was live sound. And we shot, unlike KGF and RR, let me tell you, we didn't dub the film in other languages, we actually shot it. In fact, the South Indian version has Surya in it instead of Shah Rukh. And the most important thing is, I had no clue what to do. I've never directed or edited an iPhone film in my life. I was happy just being the actor, going onto the set, saying, hey, what time is pack up? Who's the beautiful girl? Romance. Where is my check? And I'm done. It's a very privileged life, you know. And then I was so nervous, but I remember one gentleman telling me words of profound motivation. He says, don't look at the large picture, don't look at what the sea that you have to swim into, just look at it as one shot at a time. Just make sure you get one shot that you have in mind in one particular language, and then you can build on it. And that's how I realized that one step at a time, one very small step at a time, we ended up making this movie before. We ended up making this movie before a budget and before time and under budget. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
It is very known that you're having this of your time, energy. You learned about the story, you learned about the sir and his history, and you were involved in the movie. Tell me, what does success look like for you from this movie?
What does success look like for me at this point of time? Thank you, it's a very relevant question. There are just 2 things. One is that the entire world should know about Nambi Narayanan. You know, his achievement, what patriotism actually looks like. For most of us, it's a patriotism is not just, you know, punching your air and, you know, your fist in the air and saying Bharat Mata Ki Jai and shouting that. The most patriots are the ones who are unsung. And they keep continuing to do their duties knowing that they will be unsung. They put their lives on the line. They go out every day to defend the border, or scientists who work in ISRO who are constantly in danger, and the police officers. All these people who are actually contributing to the nation. They don't go out thinking they're doing that for the sake of the nation. They just go out thinking we're doing our job and let's do a bloody good job of it. And that's what keeps the nation afloat. And that for me was a definition of patriotism. So I wanted to prove that with this film. So I would consider myself very successful if we are able to stop another Nambi Narayanan from happening in any nation in the world. Yes, sorry, perfect. Yes.
What do you think about this movie like in next generation?
What do I think about this movie for the next generation? I think the next generation has to grow up a little bit to understand this movie. And I think once you do that, you will appreciate it. I think your generation will learn and understand this film far better than when we were your generation.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to find out who implicated you in this false espionage case? Were you able to find out?
For that, you'll have to watch the movie. It's also a whodunit. Yes, sir.
What are the challenges you had in this movie before you take up and after you take up? Now with the end of the project, you are making them. So how do you see the challenges? Like from the space, from the Indian space, apart from the other things for the copyrights issue?
No, there were no copyright issues because it is Mr. Nambi Narayan's story. So the only copyright I needed was from him, and he's sitting right here, so that was not a problem. The second thing is the challenges I faced, which is because we're shooting it in 3 languages in a limited time. This is the first film that I think in the history where we have shown the age group between 29 to 79 that we've shown without any prosthetics. So none of the actors actually used stuck on beard or mustache or padding to look heavier or thinner. We actually put on weight, lost weight. We actually grew our beard, and I sat on a chair for 14 hours a day to get my hair all gray so that I could, look like him when he was older. So we've done a lot of research, and I don't know if you have time to talk about it, but we did a lot of research on how to put on weight quickly and then lose it quickly so that we don't waste time trying to get into shape over a period of 6 months, because that would have escalated the budget of the film. I had my jawline broken and twisted around to get my teeth to look like Nambi Narayan. So I had actually, my hair went through a lot of turmoil, and to such an extent that my wife was very sure I'm going to turn bald by the time I finish the film. But thankfully that didn't happen, thanks to the research. So we had a lot of challenges in terms of look and getting into the shape for the film. But the rest of the information was right here. He as you know, he's a bank of information, and it's his own stories. That was not a problem.
Yes.
Yes.
So most of the biopics, when the actor works in it, he learns about the stuff that actually happened. So did you have to learn about the Vikas engine and all the technicality of it?
It's a very good question. I am thankful that he is in acting and not trying to compete with me. So, in that sense, I think he has, I should say, almost learned what is liquid propulsion systems and how difficult it is to proceed in finding out the whole thing. But more importantly, he is extremely quick in grasping it. Let me put it that way. Some of my own colleagues, I'm talking about those who are competing to understand. When they did not understand certain things, Madhavan could understand in no time. So it's not a flabbergasting, but I'm just telling you this is the truth. So for example, there was an occasion where we were talking about a vortex problem, or we were talking about gunpowder didn't react when the burning pressure, when the atmospheric pressure is brought down to 1/4 of the atmospheric pressure. He could immediately grasp it. Otherwise, some people will keep on asking what is atmospheric pressure and why gunpowder can become an inert material, etc., etc. So that way is extremely good. So believe me, it's truth.
Also, he's being very kind, but I have the best teacher in the world. I mean, he is considered the father of the liquid propulsion systems of India. So to learn from him is like, Vashishta Vayale Brahmashri is what they say in Tamil. So that's what I had. But more importantly, I was also angsty about the fact that when a James Cameron or a Steven Spielberg makes a film, then they make a film like Inception or Interstellar, we never question the authenticity of it because we know that there's scientists who are making a movie. I mean, NASA looks up to them, right? So I think it's about time that Indian filmmakers also do that sort of stuff. It's about time that high-end engineers come and make movies, or we take the help of these engineers to showcase the talent that India has in the technology, in the field of technology and space research and IT. And we've got brilliant youngsters who are 27, 28 years old who are coming in from India right now, who are building the metaverse, who are into Web 3.0, worth $15.6 billion, living in small towns in Lucknow. Nobody's making films about them. So
I think it's about time we did that.
Excuse me, one thing I just want to tell you, technology can be complicated or highly technical. Understanding the technology requires a basic information, knowledge, intelligence, etc. That is one part of it, that all of you studying here will agree with me and understand that. But if you have learned a technology and then tell it to somebody in a very understandable language and communicate with him saying that this is what is instability, this is what is vortex, this is what is... That way this picture brings out the complex technologies in a common man's language, and that way I would call it as a great success. That's the most important. And the other credit goes to Madhavan on that.
Yes. Sure. Once again, the lady, younger generation, go ahead.
Why did you put the movie name Rocketry?
Oh, because it's about rocket science.
Why did you add an R?
What is a dentist called? Dentist, right? Profession of dentist is called dentistry. So the moment we figure out why they added an RY to dentistry, I'll tell you why I added an RY to rocketry, okay?
And how does the different people, not now people, but different people know who is Nambi?
Oh, it's Nambi.
I didn't get that. It's too complicated.
How does different people know, except these people now in here, it's like different people in a different place?
Once they see the movie, my lady, they'll come to know. I promise you. Okay. Thank you. Is that it? Yeah. Yeah. Is it film related, brother?
Yes, yes.
Okay, great. I'll give you a chance to just give me a second.
One of the questions was, Madhavan sir, what is the secret to your everlasting beauty?
I think the secret to my everlasting beauty is the eyes of the beholder, my brother. Yeah. I can't say much. Just, I think it's the kindness that people view me with, and I hope I can live with it and also live without it.
When directing a film like this, how much emphasis do you put on like hidden messages or metaphors throughout the film?
When directing a film, he wants to know how much emphasis do I put on hidden messages and metaphors.
You know, a film like Rocketry, I needed to work on all different levels. So, like this young lady said, it needs to work for a teenager. It needs to work for a rocket scientist. It needs to work for a housewife and my mother. At the same time, it needs to work for people who, are able to see beyond the obvious. And I can assure you that there are many aspects of this film that have a metaphorical, input from it. And a lot of research has gone into actually putting those things in there. So on second viewing, maybe you will actually get to understand. There will be a lot of questions that you'll keep asking yourself while you see the film, and maybe a little bit of inquisitiveness and research will give you the answer for those. But they are definitely there in the film. Yes.
So Madhavan, thank you so much for being a role model. We have so many actors, and one we have you who is always kind of proactive and very kind of in a good sense. So thank you for being a role model. My question to you is, while making a movie, there are many things in real life, and when you want to picturize them in movie, you have to make it dramatized, or you have to make it a little bit factually here and there. So were there few instances in this movie, or how did you overcome with that?
Thank you. Thank you for the kind words. First of all, it's words like this that help me stay on the straight and narrow most of the time. But the answer to your question is, in most biopics, like you correctly put it, we need to add a little bit of masala to make it palatable as a film. But I promise you, in this film, the only angst that I have is because I had to take out a lot of facts to make the film believable. You know, I have only scratched the surface of Dr. Nambi Narayan's achievement in life in 2.5 hours. All I have managed, for example, the case by itself is not in the film, it's hardly 7 minutes. So the very case that a common man like Dr. Nambi Narayanan fought over a period of time to win it, that itself is a story in itself. The fact that it went to France with 52 scientists and spent 3 years. And I must tell you one thing that I did. When I met Dr. Nambi Narayanan to tell him, to ask about his story, my first upfront and very humble question to him was, I said, sir, I'm not going to pay an homage to you. I'm not going to make you look like holier than thou, a Maryada Purushottam, because your achievements will look false if I'm not able to portray the human side of you. So tell me whether any demons that you have. Tell me whether if there are any mistakes. Did you really have an affair with a woman? Did you do things that makes you human? And he told me things that makes him so human and sometimes so inhuman for the sake of the mission, that I was satisfied that this is a story I wanted to say. But again, coming back to your question, there's not one lie in the film. Everything that you see, the only liberty I've taken is to crunch time and space and characters together to convey what happened, because it's important. Also, it becomes a lifelong documentary. But that apart, no other cinematic liberty has been taken on this film. Thank you. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Can you walk us through your thought process that led you to take a leap of faith in making this movie and reconciling your fear of failure?
You know,
She wants to know what was the process that helped me take the leap of faith.
And reconcile your fear of failure.
And reconcile to the fear of failure. So I think by definition, the leap of faith is not a thought about process. It's instinctive. So there is no thought gone into taking that leap. It's only when you've taken the leap and you go, oh, and you hope that you land safely. I think that's exactly what happened to me. You know, I with my enthusiasm and eagerness to tell the story, I said, yeah, I'm going to direct it. But it's only when I stood on that fateful day of my first day of shoot that I realized what I had taken on. How I reconciled to the fact was, I saw Dr. Nambi Narayanan. Standing in front of me was a man who proved that impossible is just a word. Okay? I'm not flattering him because he's sitting here in front of me, or I've had the privilege of knowing him for so many years. But he was a living example of showing how sheer grit and determination can move mountains. You know, he actually got justice in India through the judiciary, being a common man. He actually built an engine that did not fail. He actually went with 52 scientists with the limited budget that, let me tell you another thing that we don't know much about. I mean, Dr. Nambi Narayanan built an engine called the Vindication engine, which was used in the Mars mission. I'm sure you all heard about the Mars mission. Have you all? Has anybody? And you all know the engine that was used in the Mars mission was the Vikas engine. But did you also know the most important aspect of the Mars mission? The Mars mission was completed and successfully at the very first attempt, unlike any other nation's achievement. India did it at a price which is less than the cost of a science fiction film in Hollywood, and at the very first attempt. And do you know how that was achieved? It was achieved with the help of the Indian almanac. For those of you who don't know, there is no more an accurate celestial map than the Indian almanac. It was used as a map for guiding the satellite from Earth's orbit right up to Mars's orbit. And that's why we were able to do it at such small cost. So these extraordinary things that were available to us. And to prove that these celestial maps are correct is what a Mars mission did. So when you have people like him taking that leap of faith, my taking a small leap of faith to do a film look almost insignificant.
This question for both of you guys. What impact do you hope this film will have on India and the world's support and recognition of this film?
What impact do you think this film will have on India and the rest of the world?
Yeah, your question is very interesting in the sense, what we want is, for example, you as an individual, don't ever succumb to pressures with which something is thrust upon you. That is number one. Number two, you believe in what you really understand and what is your conviction. If something happens against that, fight till you succeed. So this is as simple as that.
I mean, this is exactly what he's been telling me for all this while, and every time I hear it, I feel like I want to fight. I really do. You know, the first man through the wall has his nose bloodied. Everybody knows that. But you know, to be the first man is the kind of courage you require is given by people like Dr. Nambi Narayanan. Okay. We have a few more questions. How much time do we have? We can. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Sorry, you've been waiting. Go ahead.
How important is casting when it comes to making a science film with literates and
It was how important is casting. So you know when I went to my producers and they said, who's the heroine? I'm like, there's no heroine. Oh, how many songs and dances? I'm like, sir, it's a film about rocket science. So it was horrifying, the kind of reactions that I got from people. But I think as a storyteller, half the job is writing the story, the screenplay and everything. But more important than that is getting your cast right. And cast in all sense of the word. Now, I couldn't cast actors from the Hindi film industry or the Tamil film industry because it was impossible to make them look like rocket scientists, you know? And everybody's idea of a rocket scientist is very different, unfortunately, from other films that came out from India about rocket science. So I had to make sure that all of them looked authentic. The reason I had to do that is because there wasn't one element of the film that should look false, or else Mr. Nambi Narayan's story will look false. So casting became a godsend for me as far as my team is concerned, because I not only found extraordinary actors, I found people who spoke 3 languages, so I didn't have to dub them. And we did live sound throughout the world. And so on that front, I couldn't have asked for a better cast. And it is the biggest risk that I took. And thankfully, it worked out. But it's a great question. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Madhavan sir. So, working on the biopic itself, to put the entire story of one legendary person like this into a film that comes down to 2.5 to 3 hours is really difficult because it's a whole life of one person. Did you have a difficulty of filtering out what you can actually showcase on this?
Yes. So the question is, how did you manage to put a man's life within 2.5, 3 hours, and then did you have any difficulty in deciding which to keep and what to edit? 2.5 hours, 2 hours 28 minutes to tell you the truth. But it was terrible. It was like trying to decide which part of the body you want to keep. Okay, and it was as difficult as that. But sometimes I remember Mani Ratnam telling me that you really have to put a stone on your heart and close your eyes and butcher the film so that you can get it to sing the right tune. So I had to catch one note and make sure it worked and cut off the flab around it. And I felt so bad doing it because it is not a fictional story that you're cutting off flab. It was a truth. It was actually happened. So which part of the struggle do you keep? Which part of the victory do you keep? Which part of the angst do you keep? Which part of the achievement do you keep? All that was a big challenge. And it was a tightrope that I had to walk. But I don't know if well, 1st of July will tell you if I was right or wrong.
May I add something here, what Madhavan said? I was arguing my case in the Supreme Court. That was the final. There are 19 adjournments, 19, and over a period of 3 years. And I was arguing my case. The judges, 3-member judge, were asking me that they will settle the whole thing for 25 lakhs compensation. Kept quiet. Okay, let us make it 50 lakhs. Again kept quiet. Okay, finally we are just willing to consider for 75 lakhs. At that time I said that my case is not for compensation. I have not asked for compensation. My prayer is not asking for compensation. And the entire court was silent, and it was a reverberating voice of myself in the entire court hall. And this chap doesn't want to keep that scene in the picture. What do you say for this? Don't you think this is a very interesting thing which people should know? He has not kept that scene. Believe me.
I am feeling horrible, and now he's just pressing that nerve to make me feel even more. But honestly, he's right. That's just his version. He slept on the Supreme Court's staircase the whole night so that he can speak to the judges. I mean, he was let down by lawyers who never would appear. There were so many bits, and the entire bit is not there in the film. That is not there in the film at all. So I really need to make multiple films to encapsulate his life.
Maybe a web series.
Yeah. Sorry. Yes, ma'am. Sorry. Yeah.
So this is for Nambi, sir. So when we are put in such situations, we all feel victimized because there's so much injustice going on, and it's like a series of events that keep going on. And he spent probably 3 decades of his life for this. So how did he stay away from victimizing himself, and how did he keep himself going to make sure he gets?
She's saying, how did you get away from the feeling of being a victim, and how did you keep going? I think you answered that question earlier on, but she wants to know that in today's world, a lot of people feel victimized because of the injustices around us. How do you keep going under circumstances like that?
No, I think I have already answered that question, but I can tell you one thing. See, you know the truth, that you are not a traitor. And you are fighting when everybody else said, to begin with. Then slowly it all started tapering down. Now, as we know that it has come to Padma Bhushan, which has come to compensation, it has got to 2 times the Supreme Court judgment comes in our favor. And all those press who were writing one way, and now he's rewriting the whole thing. And apart from that, there is a movie which is coming on my life, etc. What else you want? But the point is still something which I can never forget, because it is it's a thing which I have fought for it. It is not just like that given to me on a silver plate. But imagine yourself, if somebody else gets into similar problem. So I always say to all of you, which is very important, that if you are sure about your attitude, and if you think that that's the right thing, don't agree to any other thing. Just fight. But fighting is not for the heck of fighting, but for yourself to achieve something. That's what I again repeatedly say, that all of you are young chaps. Don't think that the life is very easy. There's so many problems will come. Small, big, ugly, everything will come. But you have to face it. But I am saying you will succeed. Subject to 2 conditions. One is your thinking must be true and correct. Second thing is you fight with the proper strength.
A great genius scientist career was destroyed.
Are you saying that? No, I think the nation stood destroyed.
The nation destroyed.
You see, yes, it is true that even after all, what is a nation? We all make the nation, correct? So
everyone is not a genius like you, sir. Everyone is not a genius like you.
no, everybody can become a genius, I am telling you. Please don't ever think that I am a genius. I am what I am. But every one of you sitting here, I can tell you, assure you, beyond doubt I can assure you. You see, there's an old saying, even a cat will fight if it is cornered. Similarly, you people did not get an opportunity to show your geniusness.
That's so true. Very well said. Very well said.
So, I don't know how many geniuses are going to come tomorrow from this. So many people will be there.
But again, like you said correctly, ma'am, there's a line in the film which says, sometimes a man wronged is a nation wronged. So when you wrong a gentleman like Mr. Nambi Narayanan, then you are actually punching, actually giving it a guttural blow to the entire nation. But again, like Dr. Nambi Narayan says, we all have our field of expertise. It's just finding that calling that makes us a genius.
We'll go ahead and take the last 3 questions.
Okay. Yes. The gentleman hasn't asked one, so okay. Yes.
At the start, you said that there was a continuous scanning between you and him. Where did the ice? How did that ice making happen?
That is one. And during the course of the filmmaking, what kind of fun you both had together, which you would like to share with us?
Both of us understand. For me, it was not scanning. For me, it was trying to understand, because when you meet Dr. Nambi Narayanan, you know that there's a lot more than what catches the eye. He has an aura that was hitting me. You know, that actually like I could feel it. Except that I knew that I was missing something. He was so upset about the case that he never talked about his achievements at all. It is only when I said, Dr. Nambi Narayanan, I don't want to talk about the case. He said, what? Then what are you making the movie on? I said, I want to make it on your achievement, to know, the world should know why it's such a crime not to know about you. That's how the eyes thawed between the two of us. Also, when he was trying to explain to me how he saved Abdul Kalam's life, he was talking about the case he's staying where he was talking about the atmospheric pressure and how gunpowder becomes inert when it's 1/4 atmospheric pressure. So I was able to understand that. And when he was explaining, I was able to preempt what happened. And you're like, oh, you know what it means? I said, yes, sir, I do. And that's when he started testing me even more and more. And we really had a lot of fun with science. And on the set, Dr. Nambi, look, let me explain something to you. You must know, I don't want to show off his age, but he's almost an octogenarian, right? He's an 80-year-old man. But to have, sorry. But to have this sort of a situation in your life, where there's a film being made on you and everybody's eagerly waiting for it, and your vindication comes in the form of recognition at 80, you know, and you're relevant to society even then. I think that's the kind of blessing that every man wants to have, you know, to be considered relevant in the society he lives in. And that's the kind of blessing that is bestowed on a very, very few people. And Dr. Nambi Narayanan truly deserves that. And so when he was on the set, he was a breeze. He was having fun with everybody. He was looking at the fact that we're trying to get the science right. We're trying to get the, you know, this engine looking right, the texture of the engine, everything. So we had a great. Do you have anything that you want to tell us that thought was funny?
No, everything is being done properly. So I was only enjoying it, looking at it, and recalling what I did earlier. So years back, you know, not 1 or 2 years back, 50 years back, 30 years back, like that. So that way I was enjoying it. Yes, it was good fun.
You have invested so much into this movie, and usually, especially in Indian movies, actors and how the story of the movie influences us so much because we all are fans of movies. How does this movie is going to influence the choice of your future movies that is going to have impact on the generation?
Oh, how does I worked
out the process. Okay. So how does a film like Rocketry impact the further roles that I select? I think I will just quote my wife verbatim. And she said, shut up about direction and producing. Just go, do your acting, come back, bring home the money, let's buy a house. That's the kind of aim that I'm having. Because this takes a large part of your life away. It's a privilege and it's an honor, but sometimes you just want to come back home and not think about work. But for the past 5 years, I've only been thinking about Rocketry. But I'm enjoying it. I completely am enjoying it. But I don't think I'll direct for quite some time now.
Last question, last one, right?
Now 1 minute, I just want to add to what he said. I have been telling, I think you should know this important thing, very important. He keeps telling that he will not be doing the direction. Okay, so I am predicting, it is my prediction. Supposing if this man takes that stand, the so-called producers will never allow him to be there. He will be forced to direct, and that will be his path, that will be his success. I am predicting this. After this movie, nobody can afford to leave him or use him only as an actor.
Okay, last
question.
First of all,
Yes, ma'am.
hi. It's
Hi.
really nice to see you in person. But was there a specific part in while you were filming that you felt truly inspired by his story?
was there any part while filming the story that about you that I felt truly inspired? Yeah, there is actually. At the end of the film, there are a couple of lines that he says, which I don't want to give it away right now. Those who have seen the film will know what I'm talking about. Those lines that I wrote, that I thought would be Nambi Narayan sir's actual lines, were probably the highest motivating lines for me at the end of the film. And I can't give it away to you right now, but when you see the film, you'll realize it's right up there. It's right what Nambi sir would say. And I think on that front, I'm very, very proud, because knowing Nambi Narayan sir and projecting it forward, I was able to get inspired enough to write those lines. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Let's see if I could do this as well as you did. Okay, I did. So next I would like to invite Dr. Menon, and I'd like to invite the team that planned this event, the Hindu YUVA team that planned the event, to come up. We would just like to appreciate you with a little bit of a token of thank you, a table book, and then some flowers and some UFH merchandise, because we're very proud to wear our red, so we have to give you that as well. Dr. Menon.
Yes, I'm totally humbled by this short experience here. Both are celebrities, most distinguished in two very distinct fields. One, a celebrated scientist, and the other, highly distinguished cine artist. But of course, you are more than a cine artist. You have convinced me. I dare not actually say anything about cryogenics, rocketry, anything. Most of the people sitting here, I would assume they're your students in hard sciences. Science is engineering, but I'm not. I think I'm the odd one out. I'm an anthropologist and sociologist by training. Very different. Still remain that they have that distinction. But there is something that I would like to share with you as well as with our esteemed guests. And that is the reality in which I live, the reality in which you live, the reality into which you were born and you will remain for the rest of your lives. Take it from me, it is totally mediated. That is our understanding of reality. So this is a fantastic kind of a union, a team. You have a hard scientist creating things, explaining the mysteries of the universe and all the universal principles, and you have someone who is actually creating what we call, well, is as reality, but I'm convinced, and I congratulate you, Mr. Madhavan, for showing your that fortitude, that integrity to tell it like it is. And that is the biggest challenge in this world, be it in film industry or be it in the classroom, and that's where you very much know. I know from my 35 years of teaching experience, I know what kind of a reality is being manufactured there. So yes, so I must congratulate you, and I wish you the very best for coming up with this great idea. Yes, be it a historical episode, or be it a biopic, be it a fact of science, it's very important that we need people like you who can actually come out and tell it like it and face all the challenges, come what may. Congratulations to both of you. And I will leave with one very simple question, but before that, I want to thank, first of all, the two eminent guests for taking the time to come here and share with our students and our other guests their experiences. And then, of course, I want to thank the chief sponsors of their visit to United States, Anjali Entertainment and Mr. G.K. Pillai. Please stand so you're recognized. Yes. And of course, just to quote them, everyone can actually make contributions to this world. We have a great scientist who made rockets and whatnot, and we have a great artist who created fantastic movies. But let me tell you, I'm not that bad. I managed to bring them to you. That's my fact. And of course, my wonderful team, brilliant team of the student organization, put all the effort and time behind this event to make it such a fantastic success. Believe me, we did all of this in just 4 days. No one else could have pulled it off except for them. Thank you very much. And I want to thank the facilities of the University of Houston for allowing us to conduct this program. Thank you very much. And please, in the remaining times that may be left with you, please share with us how we can actually make this movie a great success. If there are any specific prescriptions, do share with us how we can promote it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Just have the team come up front behind the couches.
Do you want to sit down?
Yes, please.
It'll be easier. You'll be hiding there. Yeah, I want to.
Everybody look at here.
Yeah.
One phone.
That's more important. Thank you.
Perfect.
Do you want me to take a picture with you there?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you take one? One in the phone.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you.
So I'll just have, I'll ask you all to stay seated. And in a bit, we will be giving out some Rocketry merch. So please make your way to this end of the room so that you can get some Rocketry merch.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Come.